thoughts. That's right, brain to vehicle, B2V, which would enable cars to interpret signals from the driver's brain. The applications could benefit both manually driven cars as well as fully self-driving cars, Nissan says. You'll be hearing more about that on the show next week as we have a short commercial break. When we come back, Leader of the Opposition, Hon Philip J Pierre, is here.
From mobile around the world, it's Ricky Diesel and I'm surfing with 4G LTE. My data speed just double. Flow Mobile causing trouble. Get up to the time, your speed not faster than mine.
Enjoy clear streaming and super fast downloads on the new Flow 4G LTE network, the first in St. Lucia. Enjoy your favorite content anywhere and just in time to sign up for the new and improved Flow prepaid and postpaid combo plans. Still the best value on island. Prepaid plans start at only $4.99 with unlimited talk and text, super fast data and international minutes. Postpaid combo plans start at only $115. Get so much more now, up to 25 gigabytes of 4G LTE data with rollover minutes and rollover data, plus a free SIM. Wow! Flow 4G LTE. Always connected, always faster.
4G LTE, latest technology. Now you know where to go.
Being a wife and a mother is a handful. I'm so busy, I don't even have time for myself, much less my car. However, one thing that I don't worry about is my automotive needs. Whenever I need new tires, I shop at AutoServe. AutoServe stocks the widest range of new tires, maintenance-free batteries, and vehicle accessories at unbeatable prices. Visit AutoServe at the Linmore Industrial Warehouse in Foreshore or call them at 451-8478. AutoServe, your tire and battery specialist.
It is now 12:34, and thanks for staying with Radio 100's drive-by programs. Today we had a frenetic pace. We began, of course, with the drive-by news, followed by Bandag, Fitzpatrick Auto, Peter and Company, and now, as advertised, we say good afternoon to the Leader of the Opposition, Hon Philip J Pierre, to the drive-by program. So, Happy New Year to you.
Hi, Russ. Happy New Year to you and your listeners.
Yes.
Nice to be here. How are you doing? How are you?
Doing very well, and I hope you are as well, sir.
I'm just looking at your calendars there, and it brings back memories. I noticed the Ford Anglia. That was one of my dad's first car, and then I used to go to school with that, and I was to school in it. I wasn't driving it.
Right.
And then I remember it had two doors.
Yes.
And then the front door had a cumbersome way to get it out.
Yes, yes.
And my mom used to be in the front and I in the back. And if you had to give somebody a ride, that was problems because she didn't want to come on. And I noticed the Austin. There was a Cambridge, I think.
Yes.
Which is the cousin. And
yes.
Dr. Daniel, his father, 2466.
Wow.
Dr. Romel Daniel and his brother Imbert, they had one of these. They call it an Austin Cambridge.
Yes, yes.
And the Tram's tag I see here there.
Yes.
Bobby Clark had one like that, you know.
That's
Remember Bobby?
Yes, of course I know Bobby.
Bobby
Very
Clark
well. Very
had
well.
a stag, and wow, it's really emotional. You know?
Yes, this is what I wanted to happen when the calendar came out. You know, I just really wanted to have everybody who was watching that calendar to be able to see and to bring back all the memories of the days when they were growing up, etc. It just brings in a lot of conversation. All right, so and as well, you know, you have the wall and you also have the desktop as well.
Yeah, and the Holden Kingswood, that was I think the people who had that, I think Moplazy had one, so I can't remember.
Yes, but you see, but that is what happens when you read that calendar. They just go right into nostalgia all the way.
Of course, yeah.
yes. So we have it going on, and that's what I mean drive by. You know, as the
that's
host of the
very
show.
good. That is very fun. Your classic cars,
Yes, thank you.
But how many of them in the road now? How many people have these cars now?
Well,
in the back there.
Yeah, well, actually, the calendar which you have, there is right now on the road is the featured vehicle, which is the Datsun 180B, which is, you can see, in November there as well. It's the cover. Is a cover. That's Faustina's Faisal. He's in my club. And if you notice the other part
of the Corvette there.
Yeah, the Corvette, because you see the car is this calendar is called Classic and Exotic. So I felt that that having only classic cars, I felt to put another category in there, which are exotic. And these two Corvettes, if you look at way in the back page, the way in the back, you'll see Cyrus here, right? The one here, Cyrus was the red one. Yes,
Cyrus from Lance Road.
Correct. Yes, and then you have Faustinus and Edmund O'Brien as well.
Cyrus always lived there because when he used to come from school, he used to go buy water somewhere in there. You remember that?
Why Cyrus has so many stories. I tell you, when I have time with Cyrus, we just go way back. You know, so I'm happy you
see, St. Lucia it's always good to think about St. Lucia, growing up in St. Lucia. And
yes,
it's very nice.
Yeah,
that's good.
Memories.
That's good.
Thank you. And that's second edition.
Yeah.
So Mr. Pierre, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, sir.
And as I said to you today, I would just like to hear you articulate the leader of the opposition. Your party gets into power, you become prime minister. The transportation plan that you would roll out, pun intended, roll out is we talk about drive-by here now. So, as is the case with me on the drive-by show over the 10 years of this show, we would like to review the fact that as even as a small country, we have, for example, in Suriname, in French Guiana, you could see that they have rockets taking off from those countries. You have other Caribbean territories where they have telescopes where they can have tourism to look at the starry sky. So I'd like to begin with the space industry and whether there are any connections with St. Lucia. I know of one person, for example, who is a PhD working with NASA. And if it is not the technology of rockets, but you do have satellite technology, you do have a small island like St. Lucia being able to make money and have people in vocational training, career training to deal with the space industry. So let's start in space.
Well, I think the first of all, let me thank you again for having me. I think the first thing you said, or the last thing you said, is the most important: training.
Yes.
I think training, because really the sky is the limit in terms of training and education, and we have many people in St. Lucia who are very skilled, very technically skilled. But what they need is training in new areas, in new ventures, and space in terms of, because I'm sure, if you do, and it's something that we really should do, we should really do a proper search of St. Lucians abroad and what they are doing. I'm sure the knowledge and the wealth of knowledge that's out there. But I think that's a research. That's research government should do, any government. Find out who is out there, their talents, and you'll find that out there, we'll probably find people in every field.
That's right.
You understand? In fact, the guy who does football, Shaka Hislop, the Trinidadian, he's an aeronautic engineer.
I didn't know that.
He is. You understand? He's an aeronautic engineer. And I think that's and if they're Trinidadians, they must be St. Lucians. And I'm trying to remember some guy who I know worked at NASA. I just can't recall. Yes. So the first thing I think, Russell, is we've got to find St. Lucians who are abroad, what they do, and then try to see if we can get their knowledge, because we live in a knowledge industry. Their knowledge, so that we can train or they can advise St. Lucians as to what to do. A lot of it you will not be able to bring it over to St. Lucia right away, but I'm sure the transfer of technology with the use of computers, the use of satellites, we can get many things done with training. So I think you hit it on the head. It doesn't happen now. I think if training can happen in the future.
Yes, certainly. And as I said just a while ago, with the fact that satellite technology, I think the closest thing we have here to that would be the call centers, where you have to use the satellites, etc. And even in the schools, the primary, the secondary school science program, where we can see the children, the future, that they experimented those things, and they need to be encouraged, as you just said, encouraged, because you never know, we can have the next, nuclear scientist from physicist right here from St. Lucia.
And then it looks like the children have it automatically.
Yes.
I mean, just give a child a cell phone, she goes.
I tell you, they bypass your password.
You want to hear and then it's no use trying to hide things from them because they own.
Yes.
So you have to educate them. They learn of it's really, really, like in my constituency in the park that we built, there is hi-fi technology available, and I'm very happy that the the Cash Council has continued it.
Yes.
And they continue to pay the Wi-Fi, and
Yes.
which is very good. I'm very pleased with that.
Yes.
Because, and you could see the kids after school in there with their
Yes.
telephones and their computers and the things they do.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So that is a
Facilitate
form,
that.
facilitate, and then that is employment. You know, they can be web designers, graphic artists.
Correct.
The whole works. It's a new area of employment.
Correct.
In fact, there are some guys, I think, who live in Anchipo and who work from home, and they do some work for a company in the States from home.
Yes.
You understand?
Yeah, many
the technology. So technology has made the world smaller, and it has opened up many avenues that we have to tap.
Yes, yes. Obviously, space is something that we can't stay too long in, because as a little island, we have to deal with the hands-on and look at the future as it's in the making, and as you said correctly, find the people out there who can assist us in that regard. And hence, we should go right into aviation now. The fact that airlift is a huge thing for a tourism-based economy, even for St. Lucians who are traveling outside of the island. So what would be your rollout plan when it comes to aviation for St. Lucia?
All right. First of all, the primary thing in aviation is safety.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we criticize LIAT, rightfully so sometimes, but LIAT has a safety record
Mm-hmm.
that is
Unparalleled.
second to none. I mean, when you sit on a LIAT plane, chances are you're going to reach. You might reach the next day.
but you will reach.
But you're going to reach it. No, that's the first thing. So any transportation plan, safety must be at the forefront.
Yes.
And then I want to say that it's okay if you want to make it easier for airlines to to service St. Lucia. That is fine. But the safety, and the reliability of these airlines must be key. So government of the Labour Party will ensure that safety is number 1, number 2, and number 3 priority. That's the first thing. And to be safe, there must be regulations. Some of the regulations, some people think they are cumbersome, some people think they are slow, some people think they are tardy. But you see, if you want to ensure safety, you must have regulations. And I know sometimes you must be flexible, but I do not think that you can compromise regulations when it comes to airline safety.
That's right.
Because you have lives in your hand, and it's the first time when you're in an aircraft, you have absolutely no control over all your life depends on the guy flying the plane,
Yes.
on the engineer in the plane, and the guy in the air traffic control room. Your life is in these people's hands. So you have to have regulations. So a government of the Labour Party would first of all ensure that the regulations are intact, ensure that the safety of airlines and the safety of passengers and the safety record, the reliability of the aircraft. And that means the aircraft must be checked, it must be serviced, it must be the pilots must be trained, and that sometimes can be cumbersome. But I think lives, what it saves, is better than the time that we would lose in being more flexible. So that would be our party's first order of business, to ensure that regulations are intact and so aircrafts that come to St. Lucia are reliable, they are safe, and by doing that, we would be sure that within the margin of error, that things are all right, safe in St. Lucia. Secondly, our history on the airport. Now, I know that the government has taken a different position as far as the airport is concerned. The government believes that the airport should be built by a loan, which they will service, etc., which is what he said. And then we still believe that that's a wrong approach. We still believe that the airport should have been continued to be built on a PPP basis. And I just want to tell you that people may believe that the PPP is something strange and something that the government of the Labour Party has just come up with. Montego Bay is on a PPP. Heathrow Airport is on a PPP. Several airports in the world are built, Bahamas are built on a PPP, for the very reason that in a PPP, the two reasons. The government hasn't got the debt burden of the airport. That is very expensive. Very expensive. Airports are extremely expensive to run and to build. Secondly, there is transparency in the building of the airport. And I want you to go back a little and note what happens when airports are being built by governments. There always is confusion. Trinidad was massive confusion. Barbados was delays. Because the very nature of airports are dynamic. Airports is a lot of money. Now, we don't want to cast aspersions on anybody. What we want to do is to ensure that the person who is building the airport, they have the money involved. It's their money that they have to protect with the safeguards for the government. So in our PPP model, there were safeguards for the government and the private sector putting the money. You may ask me, so why didn't you not start the PPP when you were in government?
I did make that, that statement, yes.
And that is a legitimate question. But I want to ask the other question. Why didn't the last government start the airport when they had their model and when they're in government? For the very reason, airports take a lot of time to be built. It's not something you do right away. Airports, the design of airports, there are many things that come because the airport is not only the terminal building, there is the air traffic control. There are lots of things that have to come to being. So the whole process for building an airport, whether it's by the government or by the private sector, it's a very long process. It's just like hospitals. Hospitals takes 10 years to build. These are things that are real things. But sometimes in the cut and thrust of the politics, we seem to forget reality. Fact is, airports take a lot of time to be built. Airports have to be planned. The airports have to because there are several things that have to happen in the airport. There are security arrangements that happen. So whereas the government didn't build it in their time, the last government, we took our time to build it. But I can assure you, if the government of St. Lucia hadn't changed, everything was intact, everything was well positioned, and our airport would have started by February this year.
And of course, you were the minister of infrastructure at the
time.
I
can tell you, and everything was. But you see, but the strange thing is Russ, I want to tell you, that wasn't done in secret. When we were thinking about that PPP, that wasn't in secret. The opposition was consulted. The private sector was consulted. Unlike now, I have no idea what's happening. I don't know where the money is coming from. I don't know who is giving the money. I don't know. But in our time, when we were talking about the PPP, we called in the opposition. And note it, we didn't call in the leader of the opposition only, We called the leader of a political party. So that shows you that the transparency that we had in our dealings. We did not call. We could have said, listen to me, political parties are not recognized in the Constitution. Anybody can form a party. So we're not doing that. We called the leader of a political party who was not even in Parliament. We called him and said, listen to me, here the IFC is there. You go talk to the IFC. You go ask the IFC everything you want. It was completely transparent. We spoke to the taxi drivers. We spoke to the red caps. We spoke to the Chamber of Commerce. We spoke to the owners of the concessionary stores at the airport. We spoke to the transport board. We spoke to the customs. We spoke to the police. We spoke to everybody because it was a completely transparent situation. It wasn't done in secret. Right now, tell you the truth, I don't know what's happening. I've heard that there's a loan from Taiwan. Some people say it's a loan from Malaysia. Some people say it's T.R. King. I know nothing about it. So there's a difference in the approach. I just wanted to tell you that our approach was the PPP model. We still believe it's the right approach. We still think, we know we are in the dark as far as what's happening is concerned, but we still believe that the government should rethink its approach and do a PPP model. We believe that sincerely.
Okay, well, as far as it goes for the government, the party which is in power and then the party which is in opposition, I think that St. Lucia has a history of certain projects not being shared with opposition by the ruling party. But I don't want to just politicize the
I agree.
I would like to
but we need to change, eh? But well, I won't
certainly
tell you.
We do. Certainly we do.
But I want to tell you something. We must when we speak about these things, we have to speak about facts. Fact is, in the CIP program, our government called the opposition and said to me, we're going into the CIP program. You come in and talk to us. Both government and opposition and members of civil society were involved in that, and then a document came out which everybody endorsed. That's the CIP program. That's one example. The airport, the same example. And that's not a constitutional requirement. That's not a constitutional requirement.
So in other words, you were saying that when you were there, when your party was there, you all were reaching out in terms of trying to give everybody an open look
for some projects.
For certain projects, yes. Exactly.
And to make it clear to you, for some projects.
Yes.
I did something. The highway from
well,
the
no,
north.
No. I don't go to the highway yet, Mr. Pierre, because I would like to essentially to move from. You've made it clear that the PPP.
The airport.
The airport.
Sorry.
Yeah. To go that way.
We really believe
currently,
that.
Yes, and this current administration has a different approach.
Completely different approach.
Yes, to doing it. At this juncture, remaining in aviation, the airport is obviously the biggest project that one can speak of right now, because we're talking about certainly hundreds of millions of dollars.
$150 million US at the time.
Right.
$500 million EC dollars. A lot of money.
Yes. But as far as it goes for aviation, that sector, we see that airlift is hugely important for the tourism sector. I remember distinctly two administrations ago when one American airline company requested, one can say demanded from the government a certain amount of money to keep flying to St. Lucia, and that was paid. And another request was made, I think a few months later, to which the then Prime Minister said, no way. And then, one had to look at other markets. So we know that if one allows the airline companies to throttle you, they are going to look for, their pound of flesh to have them to keep flying here. How can we, as a little island here that needs that airlift, how do we keep these airplanes flying and everybody happy? Well, we try to keep everybody happy, where we do not enter into that kind of scenario where the airlines throttle you and begin to make demands to keep your tourism product going.
Well, I was intimately involved in that. This airline, I don't call his name. I was intimately involved in these negotiations.
Right.
And in fact, I wrote about that. And then when my book will come out, that'll be part of my book.
Your memoirs?
Yes, my memoirs.
Oh,
I want to write the one. I've got a story to tell.
Okay, beautiful. I look forward to that.
My memoirs will show that. And then it was, to me, Russell, it was one of the most telling moments in my political career. The negotiations with that airline that I don't want to mention the name. And you were almost made to believe that you were lesser mortal.
Wow.
I mean, that had an effect in which I've written about. It was like, you guys take it or leave it.
Right.
I'll send my plane somewhere else, and if you don't want to pay me, go.
Wow.
And it was Hilary Modest. I think Maria Fowle was there, or Costello Michel. I think one of them. I'm not sure. Costello Michel. I think Hilary Modest and myself. We went to these negotiations. Hilary was here last week, and incidentally we spoke about it. It was really demeaning the way the guy just.
Yeah.
Now, the answer to that would have to be a regional airline. And sadly, is our experience with regional airlines has not been very, very good at all.
That's right. A lot of them have tanked.
BWIA had to go. Air Jamaica had to go. Liat is the only one that is surviving, right? And surviving under great stress and under great strain. You understand? So the answer to that is two things: regionalism and open skies policy, and regionalism. We need to have an aircraft that will serve the region, that will be an economic, because as you said, you were right, air travel is an economic situation. It brings tourists in, it brings businessmen in, and when people criticize Liat, that's what you must understand. We have tried with other airlines, We've tried with Caribbean, I think it's Eastern Caribbean Airlines, remember?
Yes.
We've tried with Caribbean Star.
Yes.
All of them have failed for the very reason that Liat is not run on purely commercial basis. Liat is providing a service. Liat is running on some unprofitable routes, and Liat. But that doesn't mean that Liat is all good and gold. Liat has some issues that they must solve. But the fact is, Liat is providing, and that's why Liat has survived, because Liat is providing a service that is not always economical, and not always profitable, but they have their own issues. But the other airlines that come to St. Lucia, they come on a profit basis. They're not coming because of love. And this is why we had to pay for airlift to come into these countries. But you have to negotiate with them, and you have to get the private sector, the hotels, to come in with you. And again, when we were in government, I think there was a German airline in Condor.
Yes, Condor.
That
Correct.
I think we shared with Grenada. All right? Regionalism. We paid a part of it, and Grenada paid a part of it. I'm just trying to recall. And then, so Condor used to come in St. Lucia and touch down to Grenada. So it's got to be, that is where regionalism must come into being, and we must talk to each other, and we must do things together. But if one island has to go on its own, we're in trouble. And I've made the point, I said it publicly, in things like air transport, the opposition is willing to work with government on that. I said so publicly. We've never been taken up on it. We've never been consulted or anything. But that is so important, because I'll tell you what, if we're talking about regionalism and CARICOM, and we need to be able to get up and go to St. Vincent. And Russell, to go to St. Vincent, sometimes you can get to Miami easier than getting to St. Vincent.
Barbados first and rerouted here.
Yeah, I mean, it's something else.
Yeah.
St. Vincent is, how many miles to be? 35?
Yeah, there's a 15-minute, 15-minute flight. Takes you a couple hours to get there. Yes.
So, if we're talking about regionalism, we have to get to the islands quicker, in a more efficient way, and we've said to the government, we'll work with them on land transportation, because we think that's the key. Now, we're talking now also coming from North America, it's a different story. And now all of the islands have their international airports. St. Vincent has one, Grenada has one, St. Lucia has one, Dominica hasn't got one, Antigua has one. So then, again, we have to rationalize it. And I think that the region, somebody must take the lead in saying to the region, listen to me, let us rationalize air travel, let us work together with these airlines, let us stop the situation where one of us fighting with the other. So rationalize it, let us regionalize it, and let us make Liat work, and also let us see what we can do collectively. I think if there's one place the region can work collectively, it's if
the final one about aviation, Mr. Pierre, the fact that after Helen there has not been as strong an approach to having a St. Lucia-based airline. In fact, as the host of Drive By, I've had several St. Lucians who own aircraft. Our Ministry of Aviation in St. Lucia does not cater as well as I would have expected to the St. Lucians, or even expats who have made St. Lucia their home, to be able to do business, to have a flying school, to be able to ply the route among the islands from St. Lucia. About 3 years ago, I went to an air show in Martinique, and I was pleasantly surprised to see an airport open to stunts being held, planes for sale. I saw a Ministry of Aviation that was very helpful in the exploits of the aviators of the island, and we don't seem to have that here. Instead, I hear of the SLASPA rules and regulations. I hear the gripes of local aeroplane owners. I hear of the problems with IATA, with the Antigua Regulation Authority. So locally, for St. Lucian aviators trying to get off the ground, pun intended, it is hell for them. Apparently, it is not a together industry.
Yeah, but and I wouldn't say for good reason, but what we have to ensure, Russell, is safety, and that's the key. Because one accident is too much. But again, what we need, Russell, is dialogue, compromise, discussion. You do not need to have the heavy stick. I believe that governments can do most things if governments come off their high horses and talk to people. Talk to people. If a guy wants to do, talk to him. And I think talking, discussion, because that is what makes human beings different to the other species. Discussion, advocacy. So I think the problem in the aviation industry, first of all, it's a highly regulated industry. That's the first problem.
Yes, it is.
And if you're highly regulated, it means that you have to follow certain criteria, and not all the times can the local people follow that these all the criteria as needed. What we need then is to have join forces together, cooperation. Instead of having one man going one way, why don't we form 3 people form a company? Somebody is strong in engineering, somebody is strong in aviation, somebody is strong in come together. With this like a one-man thing doesn't work all the time. We need to, especially in the airline business, where safety is paramount. So what I'm saying to the local people is to jump the hurdles, unite. To jump the hurdles, become regional. To jump the hurdles, go into strategic alliances with other people. You know, sometimes you can't do it in your own, especially in an industry so expensive and so highly regulated.
Yes.
You understand? So, to me, the answer is togetherness, cooperation, strategic alliances, coming together to jump these hurdles. But I want to tell you that safety is paramount in that business.
Yeah, that's why I said since Helen FM, we have not seen that kind of thrust towards there. Okay, so from space to aviation, and just in case those of you who are listening right now that you've only just joined us here, this is Drive By, your host Russell Lake here, and with us the leader of the opposition, Hon Philip J Pierre. As I have asked him, his party wins the election, he's the next Prime Minister of St. Lucia, to roll out a roadmap for transportation as per St. Lucia and how his party would approach this. So, Mr. Pierre, now let's go marine right away. We know that the cruise ship industry, certainly we've seen a new berth by Point Seraphin. We've heard of the possibility of a berth down in Vieux Fort. So the cruise industry, which I will stick before I go to sailing, we have seen over the years the numbers. We've heard that the numbers have actually risen for 2017. So a government which you would head, how would you approach the cruise industry in St. Lucia?
All right. First of all, Russell, cruises are here to stay, and the ships are only getting larger and bigger.
I just read today $8.4 billion being spent on a number of new ships for 2018.
Yes, they're only getting larger.
Yes.
And again, I should not be saying for myself, but I was very fortunate to be the one who negotiated for that extension in the port.
Okay, all right.
You see, we negotiated that, and I was a minister. Went to Miami several times to negotiate what happens. What happened there, and then to this government's credit, they continued it. That's not one of those they stopped.
Well, you all seem to stop each other's projects. You all stop each other's projects all the time. So
that's not one of those they stopped.
Yeah,
they didn't stop that one. You know?
Yes.
So they went to Parliament. When we lost the elections, we had to go to Parliament to get the loan guaranteed. They changed a little bit in that. I think they changed it, getting the NIS guarantee. I can't remember right away what they did, but the truth is they continue the project. And it's a good project. It's a very good project, and it will see that both being able to accept larger ships. But that's not enough. We've got to do even larger. Even bigger ships are going to come, because these ships are rolled out every 10, 15 years, you understand?
Yes.
And then again, when you plan for these things, you don't plan for 1 year or 2 years. It's like the increase in cruise numbers. These things don't happen 1 year. It's a planning process. So you find you plan now for cruises in 2 years' time, and 3 years' time, and 4 years' time. It's not a matter of January for cruises in October. It doesn't work like that. It works. It's a long-term basis. So I'm very happy that's going. I'm very pleased with that. And then it's good that we having that both and the government continued what they found, which is very good. Congratulations to them and to SLASPA for the work they did as far as that is concerned. But the problem with cruising all the time is that people, when you have these thousands of people in your shores, there are many things that you have to consider. I'll tell you something. I have a story about the VG Beach. I notice now the cruise passengers are on VG Beach.
Yes, and other beaches too.
Now,
Yeah.
and sometimes the locals resent it. You must be realistic. And the time will come when we have to take some serious decisions on these things. We have to take them, because St. Lucia is just that size. And we only have X amount of land and Y amount of beaches. We have now as a country, and that is where we have to take it out of the partisan party situation. And we have to decide as a country what is enough. What is the ultimate number of cruise passengers we can take in the country? What's the ultimate number? And these are hard decisions that we have to make as a country. You understand? Politically, they're going to be very rough decisions to make. But we have to take it. We have to make we have to, as a country, sit as a mature country, as a country that where we put our people first. We have to make these decisions.
So you're saying in some instances you may have to look at certain beaches because they are more locally enjoyed. You may have to say hands off for the cruise ship passengers. You may go to certain designated beaches at certain times. Apart from that, do not encroach on the St. Lucians having a good time.
Hard decisions.
Yes.
But something a country must make. Now, politically, it may not be right. If you're looking at the myopic political party win next election. But I'll tell you something. Governments must change. You understand? And whether we like it or not, the government we have in power will get out of power. When we get into government, we will get out of power. Governments must change. But the country remains. The people remain.
Correct.
The generations remain. And we have to think not only for the next vote, but for the next life. And cruising, and then we have to begin to look at if we can expand our cruise industry. I mean, the cruise passengers, many of them go to Soufrière, right? We have to see how Soufrière can benefit more from it. We have to look there. We have to explore these things. We have to explore whether we can take them away from Soufrière and take them to. It's an idea I had when I was minister. That was never taken on fully. I had an idea of culture. I was saying, why don't we have a Lowers show, choreograph a Lowers show? And that is my point of departure with the Castries City Council. I believe that the auditorium in the Castries City Council is supposed to be fixed before the office block. I mean, that's my position. I think, with a fixed auditorium, good sound effects, etc., you could have these local cultural shows, and then tourists, the cruise passengers, when they come in for an hour show. I don't know if you understand, if you follow me.
Mr. Pierre, I am entertainment runs in my blood, so when you start talking here, I understand you.
Yeah, an hour show. So you have 3-4 hour shows. You have a nice hour show. Another thing that I tried to promote when I was minister, the people who sell at the Noah's Arcade, they sell a T-shirt, etc. I floated the idea of having a custom made garment made in St. Lucia. And let me tell you what I mean. Computer aided design, a CAD. There are a lot of software for that. Somebody comes and then they want to have a business suit or even a dress, a custom made dress, made in St. Lucia from Russell Lake. You go in, person measures you up, makes a shirt for you, prints it, made in St. Lucia, buy for Russell Lake. You got your shirt on your way out.
Mr. Pierre, I want to bring you back to about 15, 20 years ago when you were Minister for Tourism. We had a similar conversation in your office at Gaben Buildings when I was trying to get my models to go to Switzerland, and you were speaking about what you had, the vision you had for St. Lucia. I didn't remember that conversation. We had that conversation a long time ago. So it's very refreshing to hear you repeat it now, but what has to happen is somebody
must move it
and make it happen.
Yes.
It's a very good idea.
You see, because the cruise passengers, they buy a T-shirt everywhere. You understand? So we have to think about these things, and as a country, we have to sit down and decide on these things. And then it comes back to the whole political situation. I believe that this country is becoming more divisive every day.
You got that right.
You understand? And then
It's a shame.
all I want to say to the government, with my small advice, is you will never be able to get rid of the opposition. Oppositions don't disappear. You understand? So the best way for governments is to decide that oppositions will be there, so you never try to you will not succeed in pushing them away. You will not succeed in, you may be able to marginalize them because you have power, but vindictiveness will never survive fraud.
Let's sail into the next issue. Let's sail into the. We are cruising into an issue now.
Yes.
Let's say, and I totally agree with you, Mr. Pierre, that as a country rich in culture, that we can package our culture. As a former entertainment manager of several top resorts on the island, it was my job, my duty, for me to create such packages for the guests, and I did so at Sandals, at Club St. Lucia, Wyndham, Cunard. So I know exactly what you. That's why I said to you, when you talk about those things, you're talking my kind of language. Let's go to sailing. While last year, Cuthbert Didier, we created. Well, I was the one who he told me what he wanted, and I created something called Windward the Yachting Show, and it ran for 3 months, and it really brought yachting to the average listener who normally would not have that information at hand. And I mean, Cuthbert did a wonderful job at supplying the information and being a guest on the show as well. What came out of there is the fact that, I mean, up to now, it's still mind-boggling. Sailing, the revenue from sailing is 6 times the revenue from cruise ships, from cruising, here on Little St. Lucia. When you had times 6, it means that these people with their flip-flops and their faded clothing and going in the bars and walking around with their little plastic bags, these people in the docks at Marigot and at IGY and all over Labrie, etc., these people collectively, they are here year-round. The cruise ship season has, of course, this season. They bring in so much revenue. What would you do? What would you see for sailing to be able to not just tap more into it, but to make this kind of revenue be felt and the people be treated to the point where the St. Lucian populace can even tap into that even more? Because right now, these people are going to restaurants, bars, etc. But they obviously have money year-round. We have to be able to tap into that money. Agreed.
And I want to also say Cuthbert has been a tireless advocate for the yachting industry. I mean, yes. Cuthbert, that's his passion. That's his. We have never seen a guy who lies. I mean, the guy. I mean, he's knocking the door all the time. Do this, do that, do that. Do this.
Yes.
First of all, there's facilitation. I believe that, but the rest of the world has become a different place, very different place. Now, there are security concerns. The security concerns that that weren't available 5 years ago are now concerns.
You look at the deaths of at least 2 yachters in St. Lucia, 2 yacht people.
Exactly. Exactly. There are security concerns.
Yes.
So, here's what must happen. What must happen is that we, as a country, must decide that yachting is important to us. I want to put back a little bit. I don't remember when I became Minister of Tourism, I had a mantra: the benefits of tourism must accrue to as many people as possible. Mm-hmm. You understand? Yes. And I said I want to put a philosophical underpinning to the tourism industry. And I was attacked brutally, particularly by one patois host who is still doing it now. He said I told people to take Sulphur Spring away, take sulphur from the Sulphur Springs, and that kind of nonsense. You understand? Which is still happening up to this day, and it's been. I mean,
wow.
What all I was saying is this to me: let the people feel tourism in their pocketbooks. The benefits of tourism must accrue to as many people as possible. I must say philosophical underpinning. And let's go into yachting. and you're very correct. I wasn't sure it was 6 times, but I knew the revenue from yachting. But there are different side industries from yachting, The people who repair the sails, that's a big industry, Now, do we offer these classes at South community college? Right? Do we facilitate them online? These are the things. So we have to sit as a country, think outside the box, and let us not go into the same thing that everybody else has done. You understand? I mean, it's not a matter of any big hotels are fine. I have no problem. Big, large resorts are fine. But what are we doing with the yacht industry? Are we training people to do that? The whole industry that surrounds yachting. I mean, are we training people to be chefs in terms of yachts? I mean, that's where rich people, they want chefs. And I met a guy the other day who told me, I hadn't seen him, he said he's working on a yacht. I said, what are you doing there? He says he's the chef on the yacht. And he has another St. Lucian working with him.
Yes.
On a yacht, Chief.
Yes.
On a yacht.
Yes.
So these are the spill-offs from the industry. But as a country, we have to convince people. And this is why I made a point about advocacy. It's okay for politicians and ministers to say whatever they want. Half of the time, people don't believe them anyhow. But what we need is to go to the schools, advocacy, put it on the curricula of the schools, let people understand what's available in our career guidance, tell people the benefits of yachting, and ensure then, through direct government interference in that situation, that St. Lucians benefit.
Let me just give you, if I may, one suggestion which begins this conversation. And it is really a travesty that successive governments haven't seen the simplicity in my suggestion. St. Lucians, on the whole, have a phobia
for the sea.
You see children being, move there, before you drown, move there, whatever. People do not want to see their children in the water. How can we create an industry or bring the industry to the common man if, generally speaking, the phobia we have for the water into which the yachts, the boats must go, that the general populace have a fear of it? I would suggest to start the conversation. I know of some attempts to get swimming pools, to get swimming classes, to get swimming clubs. Get the St. Lucian population to love the sea and see it as a friend and not an enemy. From the time you get people to change their mindset about the water, which abounds, I mean, we are a little island. Get people swimming. Get people to interact with water. Now you can move to the next step about sailing. Simple.
And then move to diving.
Correct.
Which is a big industry.
Yeah, a huge industry.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the first thing. Okay, Mr. Pierre, it's already 20 minutes. I know we have to go a little bit further. So we've been into space. We've been into the aviation sector. We've been on the water with cruising and sailing. So right now, we have to go onto the land. At present, there are several projects that we have heard of that are underway or are going to become underway. We have seen the congestion. We've seen the bad roads. We have seen the lack of signage. We've seen the lack of public lighting, street lights, etc. So the transportation plan for St. Lucia is one that obviously concerns everybody, both vehicular and pedestrian traffic. So you become Prime Minister, your government, tell us what your approach will be to make transportation be more viable, more affordable, you said more safety oriented, and be able to move the traffic without all of these traffic jams you see all over the place.
First of all, Russell, my point of departure would be safety.
Yes.
Russell, that's not a very popular thing to say. We drive too fast in St. Lucia. Mm-hmm. I mean, we say we don't have any highways here. We have roadways. Mm-hmm. You see? And then for men to be coming down in these barriers at 50, I mean, this is crazy. You understand? So the first thing is that we have to make people understand, listen to me, it is not we know you can drive, but for your own safety, the safety of the people around you, I mean, cool out.
You know what the problem is? The calendar I just gave you there, these cars have a speed limit that
And they're good filler.
Right, but right now every new car is fast. All new cars
Turbo,
fast.
just push it,
Yes.
So that first thing is safety. Secondly, we have to decide again. That's a conversation. All right, and let me tell you what we had planned. We had planned as a government the Grosley Highway, where it stopped at Shock. We wanted to bring it up to Grosley.
Yes.
Part of it fall in with roundabouts, etc. Part of it fall in. That plan, again, it was discussed. He said, I want to make a point for you. It was discussed with the Chamber of Commerce, the drivers, because I don't know if you recall, when I became Minister of Transport, I put the barriers by Sajiko.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
That was my doing, and then we discussed it, and I was criticized again by that talk show host. I don't know if you remember these things. I was criticized again because remember we put the barriers, and when you saw it for the first time, it looked a little small because we had that issue by Halcyon, by Sanders Halcyon. We had that issue there, but again we had the police, we had the Chamber of Commerce, and I'll tell you something about me, Russell. In these things, I stay away from it, because politicians don't understand that their very presence creates love and hate. You understand? That's the nature of politics. Some people naturally like you, some people naturally dislike you. Without even knowing you, they dislike you just because you happen to be of a different political persuasion. That's sad, but that's true. Now, when we did this, I called my technocrats to me. That's what we're doing. We went to Trinidad and we looked at what they were doing in Trinidad as far as barriers, right? The bollards, etc. We looked, and then I set the policy and we said, listen, you go ahead and implement. They had meetings with the Insurance Council, they had meetings with the drivers, with consultation, and we came out with that. And if you notice, the traffic it frees itself up when it reaches barriers. I don't know if you realize that. That part of the road, and it coming down, there's so many traffic jam there, There's a traffic jam before you approach Halcyon Hotel.
Yes.
Right in the corner there, because there's the road is small there.
Yeah,
but as soon as you leave, and so the plan was to continue that up the highway to reach Grosley. That plan was discussed. It was agreed to. We wanted to do it with minimum land acquisition. Minimum, because land up there, how expensive that is. In fact, the Sajiko building, there's a building going there, I think is the GTML building.
Correct.
That building again started with me when I was minister. They wrote us, and then I instructed the chief engineer to look at the best plan for them to be able to enter and traverse that area without disturbing the highway. That's how I know that. I'm very happy again that they are continuing the building. I'm very pleased with that building going up. That started with me, you understand? And the government didn't stop it, although they could stop private sector.
By the way, they are sponsored of the calendar.
All right. And I will tell you, I will do, how you say, big them up, or you say?
Big them up. Yes, of course.
Good. Now, so here's what the plan was. But while we were doing that, we needed to divert traffic away from the Grosley Highway. And that meant repairing all the secondary roads of the highway. Corinne, Kaimanji. So cars, people going to the north would have a choice, the highway or the secondary roads. Truth is, Russell, the money was approved, the loan was signed, and this government cancelled the loan. They cancelled it. They did not tell them, they did not say to hold back. They cancelled the loan from the Q80 fund to build that road. And I heard the argument is the government had to put money. Of course the government had to put money. How would the government get a loan 100% finance? But the loan was at 4% with a grace period, and that road, when we left government, the only hold up was the consultants for the secondary roads had to be chosen by the tenders board, and that was a problem. The tenders board had to choose the consultants to begin work on the secondary roads. So that would have helped. So the secondary roads would have been built, and the highway would have continued. That was shelved by the government. As to what's their plan, I don't know, but I can tell you that highway cannot continue like that. I mean, it is ridiculous. You take about 45 minutes in prime time to get from to Castries. This is something else. I mean, that highway can't continue. So we have to think about it. And this government, in its wisdom, stopped a plan that was approved, that was ready to go.
Well, the Prime Minister was my guest 2 Tuesdays ago, and among the new interventions that this government has seen is that the road, as had been proposed, I think, by several administrations, which would be from Moshi to the back of Babonneau, Louvette, which goes all the way down to Dennery, that the different vehicles which traverse the Castries Road to go to Gros-Islet, that there will be certain that the number of cars will be lessened for those people who are doing business in the north of the island, don't need to go through Castries and add their vehicles to the number of vehicles going up on that Castries-Gros-Islet highway. They could just go straight from the south of the island to the north and back without coming in to add to the clutter of the traffic in Castries. That was one of the interventions that the Prime Minister mentioned as far as a project that they are looking into, which is a long way past just a feasibility study. It apparently is on its way to happening.
Well, that would be good news. But I'll tell you what I know is a fact, is the Caribbean Development Bank had finance. And again, we call the opposition, the President Minister of Economic Affairs, he was invited to look at the plan for what we call a north-south highway, which would take traffic from the north and take it through. And because, Sir John had a tunnel. Remember the tunnel?
That was, yes. That discussion we did not use about the tunnel underneath the bad lid.
But
yes.
we decided, listen to me, that would be too expensive.
Yes.
So we went on the other way around, and then we'll open up all these lands on the side, all these lands, because there's a lot of land there for tourism.
Yeah, that's why I said, Mr. Pierre, that that isn't a new idea. It has been proposed several times that you can have this road which would not have to go through the Castries-Gros-Islet area.
Right?
Yes.
But again, the feasibility study had been done.
Yes.
Financed by the Caribbean Development Bank, and what was the next steps would have been to look at the costing, whether it becomes a toll road, because that's that's expensive.
Yes, of course.
And you also know that we have to look at our national debt. We have to look at our debt situation. So that was the discussion. But I don't know where that is. But all I can tell you is that all these things were there, planned, discussed with the opposition. I want to make that point clear to you. The parliamentary representatives for all the areas where that road would have impacted were called in for discussion.
But Mr. Pierre, the point of departure apparently with both administrations or the opposition which you head and the current government in power is that both of you are saying that the secondary roads, we call them the back roads, that these roads have to be widened, proper signage, drainage, lighting, etc., to alleviate some of that congestion on those roads. But the point of departure is the non-continuation by this government of the road from Shock to Gros-Islet, but instead concentrate on easing the pressure by exploring or even actually creating a new highway, the North-South Highway, which goes around from Moshi, etc. So the point of departure is that apparently this government is seeing the continuation of the road from Shock to Gros-Islet is not immediate. It can happen later on, but the emphasis now is on this other bypass highway, which goes from Moshi down to the south. And
our government was both. We do that today, but we'd also fix the secondary roads.
Right.
And that was where we'd start on the secondary roads.
Well, we are still awaiting I am waiting as far as many motorists to see a number of millions of dollars. I hope that Honorable Stevenson King can speak to that issue of the talk we have heard of the secondary roads being widened, being made into roads that are safer, both for the pedestrians, motorists, and people who ply there. I haven't seen it happen as yet. I'm waiting to hear something from him.
Well, I would really like to know why the government cancelled the loan. It really is. I mean, and again, that's not politics. That's St. Lucian. That's St. Lucia. Why would you cancel the loan? That would give you that. Just cancel it. We have got no explanations. I'd like to really get an explanation. What I can tell you, but the Shock, the Gros-Islet to Castries, that journey cannot continue.
In your manifesto, wasn't there? That was 5 years. Wasn't there some talk of a flyover of on the Marisil Highway?
Yes,
that there would have been a flyover.
There was a mixture of roundabouts.
Correct.
And
flyover
and overpass.
Overpass. Yes,
correct,
I use the layman's term, a flyover.
Yeah.
Right. So
but again, these were discussed.
Yes.
Yeah. Discussed. Yeah.
Now, I think it's already time. So I'll give five minutes towards the fact that we have only had time to speak to the Cashews-Rosalie Highway, and because 1 hour really went by very quickly. But as far as a transportation plan, Mr. Pierre, we had to speak about the possibility of a terminal, a bus terminal. We have to also speak to the issue of bicycle lanes.
Yes.
We have to speak to the
jogging tracks.
Yes, jogging tracks. We have to speak to the issue as well. I see that the CCC is speaking about putting its meter maids. It has a system where there will be parking in the city where you have to pay for it, etc. I mean, all of this. What I can say to you, because the time is here, I can assure you there'll be a second time on drive by.
But there's one thing about Cashews.
Sure,
Russell. I'm very concerned about the death of Cashews. Very concerned about the death of Cashews.
Yes.
I mean, every country needs to have a capital. Cashews is the capital of St. Lucia. You understand? And I think that we should encourage activity back into Cashews.
Well, Mr. Pierre, I have made that point before, and I can't agree with you more. I, for the life of me, cannot understand how, isn't it, successive administrations have allowed, I'll use a term which some people find distasteful, but Cashews to become something of a ghetto with the hotspot areas, encroaching on prime commercial activity where you have merchants putting shutters and all kind of things.
And moving out.
I'm getting to that. Shutting their places down at 4:35 in the afternoon or moving out to the north, etc. And there being the death of cafes, bistros, restaurants, activities to bring life to the city past 5, 6 o'clock. You cannot allow for your city to die by being shut down, and then now you have the people who are entering those places there. You cannot go into the Walker Square at 6, 7 in the evening and you sit down there with your lady friend and because you're looking to see who is going to come and jump on you. So you are absolutely right. There has to be activities brought into the city. We have to see the people coming back into the city and spending time 11, 12 midnight, the way we had Gaiety and Clark. We used to go to the cinema with your boys.
Yeah. Now, and Russell, that was the beginning with the Derek Walker, the plastic Derek Walker, which I hope the government starts. I really hope this government rethinks its position on that Derek Walker thing.
Well, let's just say that the mayor has begun with its Saturday family day, Saturday night thing, which he has started. Every Saturday night you have some tents and some music, etc. That's a beginning. I mean, we have seen certain places in town which have events, but we need the government to sit with the CCC and the merchants to have activities in there at the same time trying to quote unquote clean up the encroaching
and that
areas.
Takes up also to the parking.
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't come to Cashews because they can't get parking space.
Yes.
And when they park, they get a ticket. So they don't come to Cashews. So it causes business in Cashews to die.
But the other part of it is that so many vehicles, every week you see
more of them coming in there.
Of vehicles coming in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have spoken about a ferry service. We spoke about carpooling. So, Mr. Pierre, there is so much to talk about. I mean, I'm so happy that that you have responded. But I certainly will give you 2 minutes for you to wrap up.
Well, I want to thank you. I think we need discussions and conversations in St. Lucia.
Yes.
Conversations. I mean, this country belongs to both of us.
Yes.
It's not UDAP country. It's not Labour Party country. Governments will come and governments will go. The country will remain. And I think we need to elevate the level of discussion.
Yes.
We need to have conversations and not always arguments. We need to have dialogue and not attacks. We need to have compromise and compromise on certain things. And I think there are certain things that we should agree on. Transportation, safety, we should agree on these things. But I think that in the final analysis, our country must have a plan. Our country must have a conversation on its future, because that future belongs to all of us.
All right, very well said. Thank you very much, Hon Philip J Pierre, folks, the leader of the opposition. He has been here with us for the past hour and 6 minutes. And of course, we have his assistant here, Yassi, is there as well with us. And what you heard from the Honorable Minister is the fact that, as he said, a party, whatever party is in power at some point will be getting out of power and the opposition will get into power. So the questions posed to him was simply, his party gets into power, he becomes the next Prime Minister, give us the roadmap for transportation, space, aviation, marine, and of course on land. And he opined and he also gave some factual information as far as what his party would do. This is just part one. We'll be having a part two at some other point where we can delve a bit deeper into more specific areas of transportation right here on Drive By. So I want to thank the Minister and of course his attaché as well. Okay, it is now 23 minutes now before the hour of 2 o'clock. And it means that I've taken 7 minutes out of the scheduled programming, which right now is the time when we speak to